Hello and good evening. My name is Matthew Ogden. I'm an editor with LPAC TV, and I'd like to welcome you to a live broadcast from LaRouchePAC.com. Tonight we are joined by Mr. Lyndon LaRouche, who will be delivering an international address of the utmost urgency, in which he will be addressing a reality which most people, including leading people inside the United States, are as of now trying forcefully to deny. Now, we have several questions which have already come in from high-level institutions inside Russia and also here in the United States. And after Mr. LaRouche's remarks, which you are about to hear, we will have a brief opportunity to address the content of some of these questions. So, in the interest of getting right to it, I'm proud to give you Mr. Lyndon LaRouche.
Well, I have some bad news for you tonight. You remember Gabriel Heater, who used to be on television and radio and so forth, radio for many years, and he would always say, "It's this or that tonight." And this is a night for that kind of utterance. We are presently in the most dangerous period of probably all human history. Because for the first time in human history, we have faced, at least known to us, we faced the threat of an actual extinction of our species. The problem before us takes the form of, here we are in the greatest crisis, the greatest financial crisis in really modern history, hitting us now. We have a president who intends to be re-elected, who is an absolute disaster and a threat to practically the extinction of the human, a threat of the extinction of the human species if his policies are carried out. We have government agencies, particularly in the Congress, which are utterly incompetent. That is, in the sense that they have no witting sense whatsoever of the greatest crisis in modern history, which is about to strike us, and which has been about to strike us for some time. It's not only an economic crisis, it's also a threat of thermonuclear warfare, as thermonuclear warfare has never existed as a form of war up until this time. Well, just to get on what the war is about. The immediate threat, which has been there since before the death of Muammar Gaddafi, was the intention at that time in killing Gaddafi was to set forth the basis for a pathway leading toward thermonuclear war. A thermonuclear war conducted by the United States, Britain, and other powers against China and Russia and other locations. That state of war, an oncoming war, has existed for some time now. Generally, you don't hear much about it unless you look at the military side or, say, the Joint Chiefs of Staff's policies, which saying don't get into such a war. But we're on the edge of it. The key figure in this war plan is the current President of the United States, Obama. And if the situation is such that although we have not gone to war yet, not to thermonuclear war, we still are on the brink of it. And the way it's supposed to go is this way. The Israelis are supposed to start a strike against Iran. Now, we don't know how deep that strike is going to be. It goes down 200 feet, for example, one of these kinds of attacks. This would be enough to trigger a war because Iran has relationships with other countries, including Russia and China. And it's known in Russia that if that war starts, the intention is to launch a thermonuclear attack on Russia and from China, from the United States and Britain. The major force would be used for that in the war would be a full-scale thermonuclear war, full-scale thermonuclear attack coming as a technical surprise, leading into a general preemptive thermonuclear attack on the United States in return for a thermonuclear attack on the United States and Russia and China from Britain and from the President of the United States. Now, such a war is always going to be preemptive. When you get to the magnitude of thermonuclear warfare, and if you look at what our Navy represents in terms of thermonuclear warfare capabilities, launchable from the Pacific against China and against Russia, that means it's a first strike war, which is a knockout blow, is what's intended. And therefore, Russia has a similar view of what the realities are. And however, one thing is true. If Obama were not the President of the United States, or were kicked out of office in the near term, then we would probably avoid thermonuclear war, because without the United States' thermonuclear capabilities, such a war could not be successfully struck. So we're looking, therefore, and we have to estimate that that's the danger. The danger of a provocation that counts as forth. First of all, the Israelis throw a deep thrust against Iran. That triggers a war. You also use the attacks on Syria and on Iran generally. These are the things. It started by the Israelis, who were supposed to not announce the date quickly when they're going to do it. The Israelis go ahead and strike with a deep thrust into Iranian territory. A provocation occurs against Syria. This leads then to further confrontation, because it comes now, they're on the verge of a war with Russia and China on one side, the United States and Britain on the other side. And British are really behind the whole thing to begin with. So that's the danger, the immediate danger. And no one in running for president, no one looking at the reality of the economic situation, which is about to collapse anyway, no one is paying any attention to these problems publicly under these present conditions. So what the public believe, what the press says in the United States or in Britain, but especially the United States, what the attitude toward Obama, the attitude toward these clowns on the Republican side, nobody's paying attention to reality. We have two threats: the economic collapse, a chain reaction collapse in the transatlantic system, which will take over the whole world. The other thing, a thermonuclear war, which will leave maybe nobody alive on this planet, at least no human being alive on this planet, if it starts. This goes into an area of total incredibility. So that's where we stand. So it's in that context that the things that we have to consider tonight are on the table. But there are many other things to consider, because our intention is not to sit back and forecast a thermonuclear war and hope that we enjoy it or something. But the point is to eliminate it, and to eliminate the factors which lead presently or in the future to such a result. And the danger is that no one who's running for president or similar kinds of office in the United States is saying a damn thing about this, which is the worst of all possible situations. Now, we are dealing with great threats, economic threats to this planet, combined with this military threat. We're also dealing with the fact that we have a puppet president who is controlled by a British Empire. Now, it's important to understand what the British Empire is. The leading figure in this whole warfare scheme is Barack Obama, the president. But Barack Obama does not really know or understand the significance of what he's doing. He has one way of looking at it. He's a killer. He's a mass killer. He's a psychopathic killer, in fact. He has exactly the intellectual profile of the Roman emperor, and therefore Nero. And therefore, he acts on that kind of motivation. But remember, Nero killed himself when he found out he was no longer going to be the overlord. And you have Obama is the same kind of personality, the same kind of mentality, And if he thought he were going to be defeated, he might kill himself, the same way that Nero did. The resemblance is absolutely remarkable. One would have to say that somebody in Britain had to have picked Obama carefully out of a box someplace to find a man of a personality so exactly like, in a different time, exactly like Nero as Obama. It's his mentality. looked at this character for some time, and as I said in 2009, this man is an exact copy psychologically of the Emperor Nero, and he will obey that. Since I said that in 2009, in the spring of 2009, Obama has done step by step everything I said he would do, except I didn't say nuclear war or thermonuclear war. But everything else he's done, every policy, this man follows step by step, the step-by-step kind of mass insanity which was organized by the Emperor Nero. And foolish people, with all this evidence before them, the fact I stated the case state by state, and everything that Obama has done, state by state, state of operation, corresponds exactly to the kind of procession the Emperor Nero's case defines. And yet, that being true, politicians and other influentials in the United States, in face of that fact, will continue to keep this man in the presidency when Section 4 of the 25th Amendment prescribes precisely the remedy. Throw this guy out of office. He's nuts. And that's our situation. Now, there are other things besides this. We could stop this war by eliminating the factor of Obama's presidency. If Obama were safely tucked away in the booby hatch where he belongs, the war would not go on, because leading people in the United States understand that this is bad, that something should be done about it, but they lack the courage to do anything about it. That's the problem. That's why I have to stand up and do this, because they don't have the guts to do it, even though many of them know that I'm right on this. There are two things that block them from understanding this. First of all, there are the war threat itself. That is very frightening. They're afraid that Obama might kill them, because he, like the Emperor Nero, this man will threaten death or things tantamount to death to anyone. He has intimidated some very strong figures in the United States, very powerful figures, with his threats of virtual death threats or implicit death threats. So we have people who are frightened who would otherwise behave differently than they are now. Right? So this man has to be removed from office. If you don't remove him from office, if you allow this thing to go to the vote in November, you're going to find, assuredly, before November, you're going to see an event in the United States. You will see the attempt to launch a thermonuclear war by London and by Obama. You will see mass killings orchestrated by Obama against U.S. citizens, as is already being done in various parts of the world. People are being killed in violation of the Constitution. American citizens are being killed in violation of the U.S. Constitution by this president, who is acting along exactly the road of Adolf Hitler in this respect, and nobody's doing a thing about it. That's our situation. So we have a puppet president, and that's what he is, a puppet president in the style of the Emperor Nero as a personality, and nobody's doing anything about it. And you look over on the Republican side, and you find a similar kind of trash, but of different vintage, on that side. So as of now, the United States does not have any perspective, honest representation coming forth for it. The election campaigns now in the United States are a farce, because they're worse than a farce. But there are other things we have to consider. It's my intention, obviously, that we shall not go through these things. It's my intention that we shall not